The Hollow Man of Mystery Town. Long ago, when Mystery Town was just a cluster of wooden houses, a man named Elias worked as the night watchman. He was known for being tall and silent, with a lantern that never went out. People said he rarely spoke, and when he did, his voice echoed like it came from a cave. One night, a fire swept through part of the town. Elias was seen running into the smoke, lantern raised, but he never came out. When the flames died, no body was found. Only his lantern, standing upright in the ashes, still burning. After that night, children began disappearing. They said they heard a man whispering their names outside their windows, even though no one was there. If they followed the whisper, they were never seen again. Now, locals claim that on moonless nights, you can see the Hollow Man walking the outskirts of town. His lantern glows with a sickly green light, and his face looks like a shadow with nothing inside it. If you hear him call your name 3 times, it means he's marked you, and sooner or later, he'll come to claim you. Some people in Mystery Town say the only way to protect yourself is to leave a lit candle by your window. If the candle burns out before morning, it means the Hollow Man passed by and decided to keep going for now.
Story time of when I got bad grades and my dad ate my hamster. So I come home with my report card, and it looks like someone bled all over it, except it wasn't blood, it was just a sea of red letters. My dad looks at it, squints, and goes, "Bad grades?" You know what that means. I thought I was getting grounded. Maybe losing my phone, worst case scenario, no Wi-Fi, but no. My man walks over to the hamster cage and eats my hamster. At first, I thought it was a joke, but, actually picks up Mr. Fluffer Nugget, sprinkles a little salt, and just crunch. I stood there traumatized, holding my math test, "Sir, I just failed fractions. Not committed war crimes, the worst part." He looks at me after chewing and says, "That's what happens when you divide wrong, you subtract pets." What kind of dad does that?
This horror story will make you rethink of having a rabbit for a pet. In a quiet village surrounded by woods, children were warned never to follow the rabbits at night. The elders said the bunnies weren't what they seemed. One autumn evening, Mia spotted a snow-white rabbit on her lawn. Its eyes gleamed red under the porch light, but it didn't hop away when she approached. Instead, it turned, twitching its ears, and bounded slowly into the forest as if it wanted her to follow. Curious, Mia crept after it. The deeper she went, the more rabbits she saw. Dozens of them sat in neat rows between the trees, their heads tilted at the exact same angle, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The white one hopped into a huge burrow in the ground. Mia crouched and peered inside. She heard a low humming sound like a chorus. The rabbits behind her started to move, surrounding her, their teeth glinting sharp and wrong in the moonlight. Before she could run, the earth shifted beneath her feet and the burrow yawned wider, pulling her down. The last thing she saw was a circle of red eyes staring from below, and the sound of hundreds of tiny paws drumming like a heartbeat. The next morning, only her shoes were found at the forest's edge covered in dirt and gnawed.
The thing in the corner. When Emma was a child, she swore there was something living in the corner of her bedroom. Not a monster under the bed, not a shadow in the closet, always the corner. It didn't move, it didn't speak. It was just a patch of darkness that seemed to dark, as though it absorbed the light around it. Her parents laughed and said it was her imagination. Years later, when Emma was grown, she moved back into her childhood home after her mother passed away. That night, while unpacking, she sat in her old room again. She felt the same unease crawl up her spine. The corner was still there, darker than the rest of the room. Trying to shake it off, she whispered, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." And for the first time in her life, the thing in the corner moved. It leaned forward and whispered back,
"Good, I was waiting."
The whisper in the cabin. 4 friends rented an old hunting cabin deep in the woods for a weekend getaway. The place was dusty and smelled of mildew, but it had a rustic charm. After a long day of hiking, they settled in for the night. Around a.m., Kevin awoke. The fire had died down, and the cabin was pitch black. He heard something soft whispers just beyond the walls. At first, he thought it was his friend streaming, but then the whisper grew clearer. "Leave now, before it's too late." Kevin froze, heart pounding. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it around the cabin. Everyone else was asleep. No one was talking. The whispering stopped, but a faint scratching noise replaced it, slow and deliberate, coming from the wooden walls. He crept closer with the light. That's when he saw them. Deep claw marks etched into the wood, as if something inside the walls had been trying to get out. In the morning, Kevin showed the others. They laughed nervously, brushing it off as an old bear or raccoon. But when they checked the outside of the cabin, the wood was untouched. The claw marks were only inside. That night, no one slept.
The vanishing hitchhiker. It was past midnight when Daniel spotted her. A young woman stood on the side of the road in a pale dress, her hair damp from the drizzle. She looked lost, almost desperate, so he pulled over. She climbed into the back seat without a word, only giving him an address a few miles away. Daniel tried to make small talk where she was going, if she needed help, but she remained silent, staring out the window. When he pulled up to the address, he turned around to tell her they had arrived. The seat was empty. His stomach dropped. Shaking, he walked up to the house and knocked. An elderly woman answered. I think I gave a young woman a ride here. She was in the back of my car, but she's gone." The woman's face paled. What did she look like? Daniel described her, and the woman's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "That was my daughter. She died in a car accident on this road 20 years ago. Every year, on this night, she tries to come home. Daniel never drove that road again."
Here's a creepy doll story for you. The doll in the attic. Mara's grandmother always warned her never to go into the attic alone. That's where she sleeps, her grandmother would whisper, locking the door tight every night. After her grandmother passed away, Mara inherited the old house. Curiosity gnawed at her until one stormy evening, she climbed the narrow stairs, key in hand. The attic smelled of dust and mildew. In the corner, under a stained lace sheet, sat a porcelain doll. Its glassy eyes followed her as she entered. The doll's pale face was cracked, lips painted in a smile, too wide, too sharp. Its dress was yellowed with age, but its shoes were spotless, almost as if it had been walking around. Mara laughed nervously. "Creepy, but harmless," she muttered, picking it up. The porcelain felt warm, almost like skin. That night, she placed the doll on a shelf in her bedroom. At 3:15 a.m., the sound of soft footsteps creaked across the wooden floor. Mara sat up in bed, heart racing. The doll was gone from the shelf. She heard a faint giggle, high-pitched and hollow, coming from the shadows near her closet. When she turned on the lamp, the doll was sitting at the foot of her bed, its head tilted, smile wider than before. Its porcelain hand rested on the blanket, as if about to climb in. Mara never slept in that house again. Some nights, neighbors say they still see a pale face in the attic window, smiling down at them.
The thing in the mirror. Late one night, Alex was brushing his teeth when he noticed something strange. His reflection didn't quite move the same way. When he tilted his head, the reflection tilted a second too late. At first, he blamed it on exhaustion, but then it smiled, wide and sharp, while Alex's own lips stayed frozen. The bathroom light flickered, and when it steadied again, the reflection was gone. From the other side of the house, he heard the sound of the bathroom door slowly creaking open.
The shadow in the corner. Lena had just moved into her new apartment. It was small, quiet, and cheap, almost too cheap. The landlord warned her that the power flickered sometimes, but otherwise, the place was fine. On her first night, she noticed something odd. In the corner of her bedroom, right by the dresser, there was a shadow. It didn't stretch or move with the light. It was darker than the rest of the room, like a hole cut out of reality. She turned on every lamp, even pointed a flashlight at it. The shadow stayed. That night, she dreamt of someone whispering in her ear, "Don't look at me too long." She woke up at 3:03 a.m. to find the shadow closer, now against the foot of her bed. By the second week, Lena stopped sleeping. The shadow was always there, inching closer when she blinked.
Sometimes she swore she saw a shape inside it, long fingers, too many teeth grinning in the dark. On the last night anyone saw her, the neighbors reported hearing Lena screaming. When the police broke in, her apartment was empty, the lights were still on, and in the bedroom corner the shadow was gone.